Hey, what's happening? This is your host Tinto, and in the usual fashion, I'd like to kick off this episode by giving a shout out to everybody that got me coffees, starting with you, row_your boat. Thank you for your generosity, and your comment there reads, "This one is for you, but mainly Adara. She can be friends with whoever she wants except Neo." And then I have somebody who got me generous coffees anonymously, and your comment there reads, "Thanks for the laughs and lessons behind the episodes." You're welcome. And then a freak flower. Oh my guys. I wish I could tell you how many coffees this is, but I tend not to do that. But it's a lot. I'm proper gassed. And your comment there reads, "Hey Tinto, I'm new to the podcast. Absolutely love the concept. Where have I been? I've laughed, I've cried, became angry and all sorts, even considering getting therapy because one of the episodes resonated with me and realized I hadn't dealt with a lot of issues. Keep doing what you're doing, you're amazing. When I can, I'll come." Haha. Well, a freak flower, come right over. I'm waiting for you, and honestly, God bless the hand that gave so much. I appreciate you big time. Zico, thank you so much for your coffees, which came in about 3 minutes ago, so you just managed to make it for today's publication. And your comment there is, "Thanks for normalizing human experiences. As Zimbabweans, sometimes we forget to do that." Hey, you're welcome. Now, before I go and say if you want to support the podcast in a similar manner, I just want to give a special shout out to Trisha Chapman from Farnborough. Now, Trisha gets a specific shout out because she could have been out on holiday enjoying the sun and basking, but she decided to listen to the Feeling Station episode and ask people not to disturb her. So Trisha, this one is for you. Thank you so much for being our newest feeler and for supporting the podcast in the way that you have. If you'd like to support the podcast in a similar manner, please head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/Feeling Station and give as your spirit leads. Remember, there is nothing too small to support the podcast that you've grown to love. And if you want to look great in the merch that we have, please come over to our Instagram and Twitter DMs. Let me know what your size and location are, and I'll get that sent to you in the post. For those guys who got in touch with me from Canada and the US, your stuff should be with you in the next week or two, so please keep an eye out for that. Okay. With that out of the way, let's get straight into this weekend's episode.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here on the Feeling Station.
Yo, what up?
Hey Tinto, how are you?
Very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm not too bad. A little nervous, but I'm okay.
Nervous about what now?
You know what? I'm like, I've got this. I'm ready for this. Then this morning I was like,
I don't think you're ready for this.
Yeah, I've seen you attack people, so I don't know if I'm prepared.
Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Thank you.
For those who are listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a romantic family and friendship breakup podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give lessons from their experiences. I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. Now, the podcast is popular for two main reasons. The first being I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun part. The naming ceremony. Are you ready for this one?
I am. I'm curious.
So the name that I'm giving you is from South Africa, and the name is Pindile, which basically means I did it again. And I'm secretly hoping your story doesn't comprise of things that you did again.
I don't think it does, I think no. I think this might not be a fitting one. We'll see as we go.
All right, cool beans. And what are you calling the guy that you're going to talk about?
So I'm going to call him Mudiwa.
Ooh, that's a nice name,
A lovely name, from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Yes. The Shona name. It means, I guess, the best way to put it would be my darling, my loved one, because they were a big part of my life for a long time. So they're worthy of that name for sure.
Does that mean you still have a soft spot for this guy?
I plead the fifth. I don't want to answer that. We'll talk about that another time, Tinto.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
I'm not one to make assumptions and stuff, but if it's clear that you don't want to be with someone, it would have been a straight no. So you plead the fifth. it just leads me as Tinto, this is just my view, to assume, okay, I feel like there's a possibility that you guys might actually get back together somewhere along the lines. And you don't need to answer that. It's just my own assumption in my own head. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's
Cool.
fine.
And the second reason why the podcast is doing great is people learn real life lessons from the experience you're going to share today. So, do you have any lessons for me?
Yes, I do. I have a couple.
Mhm.
So the first one, which I think has been said by a million people, is follow your gut.
Oh, yes.
Never steers you wrong. Always listen to your gut. Yes.
Yep.
The second one is don't be scared to start over. So if you've been with someone for a long time, or even if you're just like comfortable in that situation,
Yeah.
if that relationship is no longer serving you, it's okay to remove yourself and do what's best for you. Just put yourself first.
That's
Yes.
a really good one. Don't be scared to start over. Got a third one?
A third one, do not do long distance
Hey!
without an end date. In fact, don't do long distance at all. But prefer don't do it without an end date.
I've always said this. Don't do it. You see, long distance. It's a sport. What do they call it? It's an extreme sport.
It really is. It really is.
And I guess,
don't do it, guys.
and I guess we'll get into that as the story unfolds. I'll tell
Yes.
my own experience with a long distance relationship. That's what taught me never to do this. It didn't work for me. It works for some, but yeah, for most, I think no.
No, it's not easy. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You got
And
any
then
more?
the other one is date your age mates.
Ah.
Or people close to your age, just because sometimes there's like a disconnect between what you want, like at different stages in your life. So someone might be way ahead and they're thinking, oh, kids. And you're like, whoa, not yet. So
Okay.
sometimes it's better to be like someone you're on par with. So you're at the same level as you go through your relationship, if that makes sense.
I wonder how that's going to pan out because women pride themselves in saying we are more advanced than men, and I think there are some psychological development books that allude to the same, that women tend to mature quicker than women tend to mature faster than men.
Yeah.
So if you guys are the same age, maturity wise, isn't that going to be problematic?
I don't know if I fully agree that I've met people my age who are mature and it's been okay. And I've also dated people who are older, and there are times when they're ready for things and I'm like, no, whoa.
Okay,
Not
okay.
yet. Slow down. I think that's how it's happened
Right.
from what I've seen so far. Yeah.
Okay, dope.
And the last one, I'm sorry, I had quite a few, was
That's cool.
don't compromise, I guess, what you like in relationships sometimes or what you expect. So let's say you have particular love languages that you want addressed. So maybe you like gifts, maybe you like affirmation. And if you're not getting that, don't convince yourself that it's fine
Right.
if you want those things. It's okay to leave and go where you get those things.
Yeah,
So
just
that's the last one.
just be true to yourself, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Interestingly enough, I was sat with my dad yesterday, and we were listening to something together. And what this guy says was, never put yourself in a position where you have to change someone, because it
Yes.
never works. Let that person be whoever they are. And if it's not your cup of tea, it's okay to say, well, do you know what? It hasn't worked out, and try something else.
Yeah.
Because if you find somebody who is closer to what you're looking for, you stand a greater chance of you guys making something special and improving on it than trying to change them from day one. It never works.
No, that's true. It's exhausting trying to change someone, so you don't do that to yourself. Yeah.
Cool. So I'll play those lessons back. First one up, follow your gut. Always listen to what it says. Lesson number 2, don't be scared to start over. Lesson number 3, don't do long distance at all. Lesson number 4, date your age mates or people close to your age. Lesson number 5, don't compromise what you like in a relationship or what you expect.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get into it. So, Pindile, where did you meet Mudiwa, and why did you feel this is the guy for me?
So I met Mudiwa end of my second year of high school. So I was about 14 at the time. And
Wow. Yeah.
so I grew up like back at home, obviously living with my parents. My parents were very strict, so I wasn't allowed to go out of the gate at all. It was literally homeschool. So there was a particular day I was playing with my brothers. So we would play like around the garage area. I think we were playing tennis or something. And he was walking past, and then he goes, oh, can I talk to you for a second? So he stopped me. Then I was like, oh. So I saw him and I was like, oh, he looks cute. He looks tall. Let me let me go say hello. So I went to the gate and then he's like, oh, do you mind coming out? And
Ah,
having strict parents, I was like, I'm not allowed to get out of the gate. I'm sorry, I'll get in trouble. So we have to
mm.
talk through the gate. So we spoke for a few minutes. Then he's like, oh, could I get your number and I'll message you sometime? So we exchanged numbers.
Eish, you
And
guys
then,
grew up at a nice time in life. 14 years old and you all could exchange numbers. When I
yeah.
was 14, yeah, I was asking what's your address so that I could send a
Oh,
damn
no.
letter.
So she's on the other side of town. Were you trekking onto the other side of town?
I would be asking for the address so that I could write it on an envelope, right? And then post
Mm-hmm.
it. But every time before we posted a letter, you would spray some perfume. And I remember there was
Oh,
this
my
fire and
gosh.
ice that came out for guys by Revlon. Yo, that thing was fire, you know. So I'd spray that thing. And you had to be careful what you sprayed because if you sprayed one which was too strong, it would smudge the words. And I learned the hard way from a girl who I had met and I thought I
Mhm.
really, really liked. And she got it, but she couldn't read the damn thing. So for you guys to
Oh.
say that, hey, what's your number? Hey, you guys were living in the digital world. I envy you.
It was a bit easier then.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you
Um,
gave your number?
so I gave him my number and then he
Mm-hmm.
messaged me in the evening. And I think it's important to note that at this time, I had never had a boyfriend. I
Okay.
wasn't really looking for a boyfriend either. I
Yeah,
was in
at
school.
14, yeah, you wouldn't be expecting you to be looking for a boyfriend.
Do you know what? It wasn't on my mind at all. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously we started talking. This guy is 7 years older than me, by the way.
Ah,
Yes. So we exchanged. He didn't know that at the time. I
wait a
will.
minute. So you were 14 and you're exchanging numbers with a 21-year
No,
old?
I didn't know how old he was. Hear me out. In his defense, the way I am built, a lot of people tend to think I'm older than I am, if
Right.
that makes sense. I can't go further than that in case, it's
Fine. Did he at any
yes.
point probe how old you were?
I don't remember when it properly became clear, but I would say he knew I went to school because he would see me in uniform sometimes. So he for sure knew I was in high school. He might not have been sure
Right.
where I'm trying to remember when specifically my age came up, if I'm honest with you.
So where I went to school, primary school, you had a certain uniform, right?
Yes.
Form 1 and Form 2, a certain uniform. Form 3
Hmm.
and 4, a different. Form 5 and 6, a different one.
Hmm.
At your school, was it the same uniform for everybody between Form 1 and maybe Form 6?
I would say the uniform was the same. What was different maybe would be the blazer if you had like colors and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
even then, there were some people who didn't have them. So it could fly. It could be any one of those.
I
If that
see.
makes
So just gauging from what you wore to school, you wouldn't have been able to tell that you might be within this age range.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I,
fine.
I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking, and then obviously because he was older and I liked him, I had a crush, and he was looking for something romantic, but because I wasn't at that stage, I didn't particularly take it seriously. So we spoke on and off, if that
Mm.
makes. So we'd talk a little bit, then I'd ghost. Then I would this would reappear after a few months. I would ghost.
Yeah.
So fast forward, this continued until maybe I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the year I was like in lower six, second last year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then around that time, I lost someone very close to me in my life. And he was very supportive during that time. So that's when we became very close. So we would talk a lot. He would come by to visit, and we became very good friends,
Mm.
essentially. And I remember because again, my parents were still very strict. We didn't live too far from where I live. So when he was coming from work, he would stop by my place. So what we'd do is we'd stand outside the gate and chat. Then if we saw a car coming and there were headlights, I'd have to run back inside in case in case it was my parent. Then when it's not, then we'd come back outside. So those were the sports
You
going
have
on.
just reminded me, and if anybody in my family is listening to this episode, they know exactly what I'm about to say. There's a girl that I liked in Harare.
Mm-hmm.
Similar case, parents were very, very strict, and
Yeah.
my only opportunity to see her was just before the dad came home, right? Because earlier than that, she wouldn't be back home. And after that, she wouldn't be able to come out. So I had I think, half-hour window between
Yeah.
about 5:30 and 6 p.m. to actually talk to her. So we're talking, but I happened to drive a green Golf, which was
Yeah.
my dad. My dad didn't need it anymore, so he let me use it when I was in Harare. But it was
Mhm.
notorious for breaking down. Anytime anything can happen, yeah? So
Yeah.
we saw the headlights you're talking about, and all she said was, my dad. Yeah?
Oh.
With the Golf start, the thing refused to start. When it eventually did start, the headlights were glaringly in our eyes, and the dad could tell this girl is with a boy. But because
Oh
it started, all she
no.
said was, go, go, go. And where was she? She was in the car. So we went together, God knows where to. We finished all the back roads in the neighborhood that we're in, and then it clocked that, okay, I'm still outdoors, and I'm outdoors with a boy, and my dad, who's really strict, is now in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to know how we negotiated the return of that lady to
Oh,
the
give
house.
us the tea.
I won't give it the tea, man. If anybody wants the real tea on this, they will need to find one of my family members. I won't tell you which one. They will need to speak to each one of my family members to get the real guan on this. But I can relate to what you're talking about. That you used to speak just outside the gate, and if you saw headlights, you would know, they're back.
Yeah, I'd run. Oh, it wasn't easy, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. So we did that for a couple of months, and not a couple of months. I'd say a couple of weeks. Then on one day, he goes, "Oh, can I kiss you?" And I was like, "Whoa, where is this coming from?" Because I thought we were now just very good friends. And he took me off guard, like he caught me off guard, and I was like, "Okay, no, not yet, like not today." So that happened. We continued hanging out, and then I began liking him a lot. Like I wouldn't want to go a day without speaking to him. I would always be like, "Oh, I need." It was nice getting morning texts, checking on him in the evening. So a few more weeks later, I think he was drinking with a few of his friends, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm nearby. Do you want me to like bring you some food?" Because they're like drinking and braaiing. So he's like, "I can bring you some meat, bring you a drink if you want." Then I was like, "No, that's fine. Bring me some." So he came with it, and then he gave me the drink and the food. Then now it was my turn. I was like, "Oh, so am I not getting that kiss today?" And then he's like, "Oh."
Hello, girl.
I was like, "Shoot your shot,
Yeah, you
girl."
were ready now, innit?
I was like, "Yeah." So then that was the first time we kissed. It was a nice kiss. We
What,
kissed, and
was
then
that your first kiss ever?
no, it was my first kiss with him. It was my first. Oh, this is not the story to don't.
No, I know. I'm just asking.
No, it was my first kiss with him. So that happened. And then I guess the dynamics of our friendship changed after that. So I was now in my final year of high school. And then at a point, he asked me out. I was like, "Oh, I really like you. I enjoy talking to you. Would you be my girlfriend?" And then I said, "I don't know if I'm ready for that," because I was still dealing like with the person I had lost. I had a
Yeah.
lot of things, and just before I lost that person, I had also had my heart broken by an ex. So there was lots going on. So I was like, I don't know if I'm in a space where I can be a girlfriend. So I was like, no, not yet. That happens.
So what had you kissed him as your friend?
I I wanted to kiss him. I liked him. I wanted to kiss him. I hadn't thought how far it was going to go after that. I
But
hadn't
in your head, when he'd come and see you at the gate, what was he seeing you as? Your friend, just your friend. In your mind, he was just your friend.
He was he was my friend, but I knew there was attraction on both sides. So I don't know if it was pure. It wasn't pure platonic friendship, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. Yeah,
Okay.
do you get what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously he asked me out. That happens, and then a while later we were speaking. Now I don't know if this was like a trick. I don't. Listen, I will ask him one day maybe. But he decided to tell me about a girl he had met, a girl he had started talking to, and then I got upset and I was like, "Why are you telling me about a girl you've met or you're speaking to when I'm here? Like, hello?" And he's like, "No, but I asked you out. You said no. I've liked you for a long time. I'm not going to wait around forever," which is fair and fine. Then I got jealous. I was like, "No, forget her. I am your girl now." So then that's how we started dating. So we became.
Do you know if that story was true or he was just putting you under psychological pressure to respond?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Yeah. You should ask him. You should ask him.
In hindsight, I'm like, was this like a smart play or
Well, whatever it was, it got a result that was positive for him and
it
for you,
worked?
and for you, I guess, because you said you already liked him anyway.
I did like him anyway. I did.
But you had said no. What were you concerned about?
So it was obviously, like I had said, I'd lost someone. I was still dealing
Yeah,
with those
yeah,
feelings.
yeah.
With my ex, I wasn't sure if I was like 100% over it. So I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I might potentially still like my ex and then now I'm dating someone else. I'd said give yourself a year to chill and then start dating. That was the ideal for me. And the other thing was, I always knew if I dated him, it would be something very serious. And I
Yeah.
was a 17, 18-year-old girl. I was
Right.
like, am
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ready
yeah.
with this level of seriousness now?
Aish. So this psychological pressure made you put all of these two things to the side. How long had it been since you had broken up with your ex that you eventually said yes to Madio?
So at that point, it had been about, so I'd broken up with him, let me see, I'd say about 7 months.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was near enough a year. It
It
wasn't
was
too
close, it was
far off.
getting
Yeah.
there. It was getting there. And I didn't want to lose him because I did like him. So I was like, you know what, let's try and make this work. This could be the love of your life and you're you're fumbling the bag. So we
Okay.
started dating. And it was great. He was great. So I was obviously last year of high school, I had my A levels coming up. So he would call to wake me up to study. He would be like, oh, wake up to study if I needed him to wake me up. If I got stuck with stuff, because he was really good at maths, he would work things out for me and then like send it over, and very supportive, very great. So that was my last year of high school. Then I had a mental breakdown towards the end of the year.
Ooh, what happened there, Pindila?
No, I just like there was a lot of stuff going on, and I remember I said to him, "We need to take a break. There's a lot going on. Let's take a pause." Like, so that happened, and I think he took the break to mean let's break up. So yeah, we broke. I guess essentially we broke up because we weren't talking during that period. So that was then December. January, we started speaking again because when I got my A level results, I had done well. And I was like, it's not right for me not to message him because he helped me out a lot. So I messaged him. I was like, oh, I did well. These are my results. Thank you for the support, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, no, I'm happy you did well. Then we started talking again. And of course, sparks were flying. So we were talking. We were now hanging out. Um, I had also started looking for places for uni. So looking for places for uni. And now in my mind, I was like, okay, should we get back together? Because I'm leaving for uni in September, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be in a long distance relationship? So obviously, first reaction for me was long distance relationship. It's a no from me. I want to go to uni, date different people, have a nice time. So what I said to him was, why don't we date until September? Then when I go to uni,
We break up.
stop things. Do you know what I mean? Yes.
Ish.
And then he wasn't like particularly happy with that. He's like, oh, I don't like how that sounds. It's like, okay, so it seems like I'm a time pusher till you leave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But he's like, no, you know what? Let's do this. So that happens. And then, so I don't even know if I can say we were officially dating again. It's a very gray area, that period in time. We're going to introduce someone into the story. We'll call her Agnes. I'm sorry, Agnes is the first name that
Yeah.
came
Okay.
into
Cool.
my mind. So
Yeah.
Agnes. Agnes was a friend of mine. So Agnes didn't know in like details about this guy, about what was going on, what had gone on. So I introduced Agnes and Mudiwa. They meet, it's fine. Agnes and Mudiwa took a liking to each other, I guess. And then Agnes and Mudiwa, it's fine. No, honestly, I take accountability in the fact that I was never clear to my friend about what was going on with Mudiwa, so she did nothing wrong. I messed up.
Why were you unclear to her in the first place?
Because I wasn't sure as well with you know how I said it was like a gray area. I wasn't 100% sure. Like, what am I saying exactly? There were friends of mine who knew, like my best friend knew what was going on, but I hadn't been clear to Agnes.
Right.
So these two took a liking to each other. Unbeknownst to me, these people were now meeting up. Like outside of me. They would do stuff, they would hang out. And then somewhere along the line, I think there was a kiss, right?
Right.
Which I then got to find out about. And I was upset because Mudiwa was still hanging out with me. He was still kissing me. So I was like, well, what's going on here? So essentially what I said to him was, Mudiwa,
Mm.
and he had said to me, he's like, you can't blame me for doing this because you said you want to date me till September.
Mm-hmm.
She seems to actually like me and wants to like pursue things further down the line. Like, what do you think I'm going to choose? But at the same time, I like you, so
Well, this
why
guy
not?
wanted his cake and to chow it also.
That's what I felt. So I was like, no, that's okay. I was like, I understand my part that I played in this situation. Then I said to him, okay, obviously because I hadn't been clear with things, fine. What if we try and pursue things even after I go to uni, like try the long distance thing? Would you be cool? Then he's like, oh, that would be all right. And then I also said, again, horrible of me. I was like, if we are going to become a thing, because you guys were doing your stuff secretly and lying, well, hiding it from me. Let me not say lying, hiding it from me. I wouldn't be comfortable with you guys being friends.
Yo.
So I was like, I was like, either if you guys want to continue, it's fine. I'll remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
If you want me in your life, I won't be comfortable like with that friendship. I'll always end up, I don't know if I'm making sense, Tinto. In the back of my mind, I'll always be like, are they secretly doing something?
You're making a lot of sense because the episode that played literally just last weekend is describing exactly what you're saying. That a girl told every guy she was ever with that don't talk to this particular girl. I don't want you to be friends. And they were friends before, and she's like, don't do it. It's happened to me a few years ago. And an ex of mine was like, you can't be friends with this person. I don't like it. Just don't do it. So I get it.
Yeah. No, I get it. So in hindsight, I hate that I did that because I lost a very good friend in Agnes, which I regret till this day, but it is well. It's well. I accept what my role in that situation. So he and I.
I really don't think that was a bad thing, though, to be fair.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
because remember, the Mudiwa and her had kissed.
Yes.
And you just described to me that they took a liking to each other. And it doesn't sound like it was just a tiny liking. If you hadn't found out about the kiss, they probably would have gone further.
I don't know. I don't know. It might have.
So I don't know how that's a bad thing. You had proof.
I think it's just I felt bad because I ended up losing a very good friend in the process. Do you know what I mean? I would have preferred. Maybe I should have trusted her. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I lost a good friend, and I do regret that. That
Yeah.
was unfortunate.
But also having, the more I think about this, the fact that you were not transparent about what was happening between you and Mdiwa means that she wasn't sneaking behind your back.
Exactly. She didn't know. So that's why I'm like, he is the one I felt had a bit because he knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And what was going on. She was sort of blindsided, and I could have handled the situation better. Let's put it that way.
Ish. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So that happened, and then obviously he and I pick up from there. So obviously, the whole when I said follow your gut, my gut kept telling me, "Girl, are you sure you want to go to uni and be in a long distance relationship?" But I was like, you know what, you really like this guy. This could be your future husband. Go with it. So I go to uni. We're going on with long distance. And then another lesson which I had said, which was don't compromise the things you want. So I used to want to be like, oh, let's celebrate our anniversary, or like month-iversary. Okay, I know month-iversary is ridiculous, but I just be like, let's try celebrate. And he wasn't particularly into that. He's like, now I must remember a day every month. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't his thing, which was fair and fine. So even though I wanted to do that, we ended up not doing it because I was like, you know what, it's fine.
Right.
I'll put that on the side. It's cool. So we dated. My first year of uni was fine. We dated. I came home, got to see him during the summer. It was fantastic. Second year, I went back and then we started having issues communication wise. So obviously, when you're long distance, a big thing is we need to talk. We need to video call.
Yeah.
We didn't always talk as much as I would have liked to. We didn't communicate as much as I would have liked to. But sometimes I was made to feel like I'm a bit needy in terms of you want so much attention all the time. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was now like, okay, maybe I shouldn't complain too much. Maybe I am the one who's being the problem here and I'm asking too much. So again, I like tried to shift down my expectations in regards to communication. So we
Mm-hmm.
dated. That was, I guess, another year that went by. I came home for the summer. Fantastic, got to see him. And then come the third year, I was in uni. Um, Something happened when along the way where he had to travel. Like he had an emergency trip. He went away for a couple of months and he didn't give me a heads up. So essentially, he just disappeared. And I was calling, no answer. I called his family because I knew his family, and I remember everyone was like, "Oh no, he's gone away," and I'm like, "How is my boyfriend going away and I don't know anything about it?" And I felt very offended because I was like, "I've been in your life long enough for you to have let me know what was going on because now you're just nowhere to be found. I don't know what's going on." So once that happened, in my mind, I was,
So
oh,
hang on a
sorry.
sec. When you say going away
Yeah, like he traveled, so he went
to a different country or
yeah,
different
to a different
town
country, different country.
without telling you anything to say I need to go to this country to deal with whatever.
It's a bit, yeah, I didn't clearly know. I eventually found out what happened, like later on,
What
but
happened?
initially, it's like personal stuff. I can't
Okay.
divulge that if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, fine.
So
Yeah.
eventually, I found out what happened, but I was kind of the mindset of your family should have been able to tell me what's going on because I've been in your life long enough. I think I'm important enough to have been given an explanation.
Mm.
So when that happened, I sort of was like, I think I'm done with this. I didn't appreciate the way I was treated in that situation. And cue the other things I'd been complaining about already. There's
Mm.
communication, there's the long distance aspect. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. So the plan was when I go home in summer, we're going to talk and then we'll properly end things. So I went home that summer. We talked, and then he sort of also said, like, I sometimes feel like I'm not giving you what you want and what you need. So maybe we should break up.
Mm.
And I cried because I was very hurt because even though in my mind I'd said that's what I wanted, I don't want to lose him. He's still someone I very much loved and wanted to be with.
Mm.
So we said that and we had allegedly broke up, but we were still hanging out and doing stuff and acting as normal. Um,
What does doing stuff mean?
Tinto, kissing, maybe doing what is it called? The horizontal mambo. Maybe.
Horizontal mambo. I've heard it as horizontal gymnastics, but I've not
You know
heard
what?
it as
Horizontal gymnastics
horizontal.
works too.
So speaking of horizontal mambo,
Hmm.
before you left to go to to uni and stuff,
Hmm.
had you guys indulged in that?
Yes, we had.
Now, was that important for you to do to keep the bond alive, or you did it because you wanted to?
I did it because I wanted to. Yeah, it wasn't to keep the bond alive. No.
Now, looking at how old he was, which was 7 years older than you,
Hmm.
did he ever put you under pressure for that sort of thing? Or you did it when you felt, yeah, I'm ready, so I'm going to do this?
He never put any pressure. So, like, from when we started, like, we'd kiss and stuff. And he
Mm-hmm.
was always like, there was never a, oh, we need to do this. Like, if anything, a lot of the times he would be like, let's stop,
Oh.
relax. Like, he wasn't pushy. He's like, I want us to do it when you're ready. I don't want you to feel like I'm forcing you into this, if that makes sense. Because I guess he was aware of the age thing and he didn't want to seem
Mm.
pushy or anything. And I had had a previous experience, again, because he was my friend, where I told him, I've been pressurized before.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So he was very understanding in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
that. Yeah. So when it did happen, it was consensual. It was
Gotcha.
consent.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So where was I in the story? I've forgotten where
Well,
I
you're saying
left.
that, okay, so you guys, you kind
Oh,
of getting back and you're kind of doing stuff.
we were still doing stuff. So
Mm.
we hadn't clearly decided if we were getting back together. So I came back to school.
Why was
This
that a
is now
running theme, by the way? Because it's happened before. You know,
we keep saying we're going to.
yeah, it's happened before. It's happening again. And remember, your name is Pindile. You're about to do it again.
It's true. There's actually a link.
Yeah, there is a link. When you're saying there's no link, there is a link. So there is
There is
something.
a link.
Yeah, there's something you're about to do again. Did it make you a little anxious and nervous to say I've been here before and I'm doing it again? Because it didn't end well initially. It resulted in you losing Agnes as a friend first time round.
Yes. Yes.
So you were risking something else happening by being unclear. Did it not worry you?
You know what? At the time, I didn't think about it. Now, when you say it now, I'm like, ooh. But no, you understand why it's then became clear. Something that. So I came back to school. I'm in the swing of things. I like going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm like, why am I getting so tired when I go to the gym these days? Something's not right. I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Maybe it's uni stress. My period was late.
Shem.
I was like, you know what? Again, uni stress. Final year they come with fire. There was a lot of things going on, and then one day I was getting ready because I used to work as well. So I was getting ready for work, and then I looked at my boobs. I was like, these are not my boobs. I need to go buy a pregnancy test because something's not balancing out here.
Right.
So I go and buy the pregnancy test. It was positive. I'm like, oh.
Aish.
And this is just like, I would say a month into uni starting. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I was like, you know what, maybe the test is wrong. Go buy a second one. What a second one, it was positive again. I was like, whew.
They always recommend buying two anyway, don't they?
They do. Then I was like, no, it's lying. I'm going to the doctor. It's not possible. I went to the GP and then I'm like, this is my situation. I've taken these two tests, but I don't think they're correct. Would you mind running a test again? And he was like to me, no, girl, these tests are accurate. You're pregnant. I can refer you to a midwife. Well, obviously they present you with all your options. Here are your options. Then I told him, I messaged him. I was like, I am pregnant with child.
You said this could not have been possible. Why wouldn't it have been possible that you're pregnant?
Well, it would have been possible because I was doing the horizontal mambo, but I just couldn't believe.
Were you on some contraception?
No, but I was using, for most times, there was protection used for most times.
Okay. And then,
I feel like the one time we were careless was, do you know what I mean? It was like one of those oops, and then that oops came through. But so that happened.
Who said oops? He did or you did?
I said oops. I said. And it's funny because I remember the actual day it happened. I know. I was like, okay. But I told him, so he goes, obviously you've just started uni. Let me know what you want to do. I'll support you regardless. So just let me know, do you want to keep the baby or if you would like to abort the baby, it's fine. I'll support you either way. Then I was like, okay. So I took time to think about it. I was like, it's the start of school. What am I going to do? Do I want to drop out or take a break for the year? And then I convinced myself I can do this. I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'll keep the child. I'll also do school. I'll be okay. So I told him, I was like, no, we'll keep the baby. I'll work it out as we go along. So kept the baby, was pregnant throughout final year, it was fun. It was hard. It was fun times. And then I told my dad, I think a few months in, because obviously I was meant to go home, and I was like, if my dad, he's going to see me with a belly and he will need an explanation. So let me give him a heads up. I told
remember,
my dad,
he's always been strict, hasn't he?
Yes, that's what scared me. So I told him, and his reaction was very surprising. He was like, oh, okay, so who's the dad? I was like, oh, my boyfriend. Then he goes, so is your boyfriend here or is he there? I was like, no, he's there. We actually go to the same church. You know him. He's come to the airport to say goodbye sometimes. And then he's like, oh, okay, tell your partner, your boyfriend to message me, then we'll meet up. So yeah, they met up, they talked. I think obviously, as a dad, you just ask the usual questions. What are your intentions with my daughter? Do you plan to be involved in the child's life? What? So I guess that went well because my dad seemed cool. So yeah, I went through the pregnancy, had the baby. And then now we were obviously when the baby came into play, I guess we just sort of we were back together. We're like, it's fine, we're back together.
So,
Figure
so,
things out.
so the whole time you were pregnant,
Hmm.
you were still in the gray, muddy zone of not
No,
knowing
so
whether you were boyfriend and girlfriend.
no, so once I got pregnant, he was like, we did. I don't think we officially had the conversation like, oh, okay, we're back together, but we just went back to its normal settings, if that makes sense. So I don't if we didn't even have that conversation to say, oh, we're girlfriend and boyfriend again. It was just unspoken, but it was there.
Ish,
If that makes
how comfortable did you feel in that space? I would be very nervous.
I was okay. I did trust him. I know despite like what what happened earlier, I did trust him. And I know during that time as well he had brought up maybe let's get married, sort of like, oh, you're pregnant, let's get married. So I thought in my mind I was comfortable. I thought we were on the same page, we were together. I wasn't thinking there might be other things going on at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that. When he did this suggest we get married, I was kind of mindset of I don't want you to marry me simply because I am having a baby.
Yeah.
Let's wait for us to have the child. We think things through and then we see what happens. So yeah, we had the child. I finished school, I graduated, we thank God. I went back home. And then my family was now asking, so what's next? Is he moving to the UK? What is the plan with you guys? And I was like, guys, I'm not too sure. We're trying to
Yeah.
figure things out.
Mm.
So I spent a couple of months with the child, and then I had to come back for my masters. So the child was in like the grandmother's care. So like
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
essentially. So that's what happened. So I come back for my master's. This is where we started fighting a lot and we kept having the same recurring fight, which to me was we've been doing long distance for a lot of years now. Um, are you going to move here? We need an end date. We need
Yeah.
a plan. He was like, I don't think I want to move there. I am okay and I'm comfortable here. Why don't you move back? And for me, it was more of I've spent so many years in school studying what I studied, trying to become an expert in this. For me to go back home and throw away my career was kind of like, oh, so why did I do all this for? I might as well not have wasted my dad's money. So I didn't want to come back. And then we went back and forth at it for a while, many,
Mm.
many fights. And then I sort of like put it in the back burner. I was like, no, you know what? It's fine. We'll ignore it for now.
Mm.
And then I finished my master's, I graduated, I started working. I brought up the conversation again. And I think because people around me, so obviously you have friends who are in relationships, and you see people, oh, I'm going to sleep over at my boyfriend's, oh, I'm doing this, we've got a date night. And I couldn't do the same because
Right.
my person is all the way over the ocean.
Yeah.
And that started getting, and I was like to him, you know what, I don't know how long I can do this for. We need to have a solid plan. Um, And he kept going, no, no, I'm working, I'm working. We can travel up and down as we're doing, like, time, come there sometimes. And I was like, but that's not enough. I
Mm.
want a bit more from this. So that happened. Our communication was also going bad as well again. So the calls weren't as frequent as I would like because he would be busy a lot.
Mm.
Video calls weren't very often. Cue my love languages. I was like, it would be nice to get affirmation. So already I'm not seeing you, but tell me I'm beautiful. Tell me you love me. Like reassure me and remind me all these things. I didn't feel like I was getting that anymore, or not very much. In terms of gifts, I again, obviously it's tricky to send stuff from like back home and Zim to here, but I was like, it would be nice if you'd get me flowers sometimes,
Yeah.
get me little presents. But again, because it wasn't something he was particularly keen or into, I then would convince myself, you know what, it's fine. Everything else seems okay in the relationship, so
So
it's
so
fine.
so what was he actually doing for you that speaks to things that you genuinely appreciate? Because you wanted companionship, he wasn't giving you that. You wanted time. He's not giving you that. You wanted to feel close, video call. He wasn't giving you that. He wasn't getting you flowers. So what was he giving you?
Um, so when we would talk like on the phone, like we got along very well. So conversation flowed easily. I felt it was very easy to open up to him and tell him stuff, and vice versa for him. Um, we were just, because we were good friends, we're at the beginning of the story where I was like, we were good friends for a while. That was still there. So I really enjoyed talking to him. And when we were together, when we did see each other, things were fantastic. It was like if things were like this all the time, it would be great. Does that make sense?
It does,
So
but they
I
weren't.
think that's what I was holding on to.
But this is the thing. The question is what is not what was he giving you, it's what is he giving you in that moment in time, given everything you've just described. It sounds to me like the best he could give you right now is an ear.
Eish.
And that wasn't enough.
My heart. But yeah, when you put it that way, no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. So this is now. Oh, where was I? Okay, so I guess that happened.
You still haven't answered the question, by the way.
What was the question? What was he giving
yeah,
me?
what was it giving you?
I guess an ear. And when we were together, I would like hold. Oh, in that moment, I don't know how to answer that, Tinto. I don't know.
So he was giving you nothing.
I wouldn't say nothing because we were talking. Oh.
Because I'm trying to understand
Mm-hmm.
what it is that would have spurred you on to keep going. Because remember, you guys now have someone that you're custodians of a soul of.
Yes.
Which I was hoping would be all the reason why you guys would work stuff out and say, look, let's put our differences aside. Either you come or I'm coming. Because now it ceases to be about the degree that you've put work into. It ceases to be about his comfort around where he is.
Mm-hmm.
The question ideally now should be, what is best for this soul that we've brought in?
It is true. So it's funny you say that because in my mind it was, when we were having these arguments, it would be like, okay, ideally we want us you want us to be a normal family. We're all in one place and we're together. And in my mind, I thought if we move here, right, there are more opportunities for the child. Education wise, if he's good at sports and he wants to pursue that, if he wants to pursue arts or whatever it is he decides to do, there would be more options here. The problem was that we are both two very strong characters, and he has his goals and his things he wants to achieve. I have my goals and my things I want to achieve. And on top of that, I was of the view that it makes more sense for the child to be here. But we couldn't come to a compromise, unfortunately. It was very difficult trying to convince him that it would be better to come here. So yeah.
And it was equally difficult to convince you to leave and go there.
It was. Okay. Definitely. It was a clash of two very
clash of the titans,
but two very strong people. Yeah. So yeah, I guess now we go into 2021, which was last year. I guess essentially the last year of our relationship. And I know this might sound corny to some people, but I'm a Christian. I do pray. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I said a prayer and I was like, God, I've been with this person. This year is going to be 8 years. It's coming to 8 years.
Wow.
If we are meant to be, keep us together. If it's not meant to be, please break us up. May we not last the year. That was essentially my prayer. Because I was like, I feel like I'm getting older. I don't want my time to be wasted or to keep holding on to something and nothing's going to come out of it. So I said that prayer, fair and fine. Did we not start fighting, Tinto? We were fighting all the time about the moving stuff. If not, I'd be complaining about communication, about how much I miss him and I wanted more than what we had in that moment. And then ultimately, around July, I was like, you know what? I think we should. Was it around? Yeah, I was like, we should call it quits. Maybe let's take a break. Let's break up. And you don't want to move. I don't think we're ever going to agree. Let's agree to disagree and just end things. And a part of me did that, hoping I would shock him and scare him into saying, you know what, I want to move. No, I don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not what happened at the time. So that's how we then broke up, and I was very hurt, very heartbroken. But ultimately, I think I did what was best for me in that situation, just because, as I said, like one of the lessons, I wasn't getting everything I wanted. And I was scared because I kept thinking, how am I going to start over? I've been with this person 8 years. He's all I know. Also, I now have a child. Going back into the dating game with a child is a bit
Mm.
more complicated. Am I ready for that? But ultimately, I decided to choose myself and just remove myself from that situation. But yeah, that's how things came to an end.
Out of curiosity, your child, is your
Yeah.
child with you now?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. But
So is your child with dad?
with so between like my family and dad's family. So it's like
Okay.
getting a bit
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
both, yeah.
Now I get when I was asking about you guys potentially getting back together. I get that now.
Oh, do you see where the pause?
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally get it. It's a very wholesome story. Funny enough, if I can put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not that you asked for an opinion or anything,
Yeah.
but the absence of being intentional could have been the downfall of both of you guys.
Oh, okay.
In that it feels like none of you were really intentional about what you want out of this, because if in two occasions both if you couldn't define what you were just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And going with the flow is about the riskiest thing that can happen to any relationship, because you don't know what you're working towards, so that when stuff starts going wrong you can't measure whether it's what you wanted or you didn't want.
Oh no, that's true. That is.
Whereas if you're intentional and you say, look, I want to have marriage come out of this. Are you prepared to marry me or you're not? If he says no, then you can go your own way and you've closed that chapter.
Yeah.
But because it was good, and then for him, he could have done the exact same thing, and asked you, do you want to be my wife? I need to know because I'm serious about this and I want you to be my wife. Then
Yeah.
you had the choice to say yes or no. If you said yes, then I feel it would have been easier for you guys to have this compromise between who moves where. Because again, the person who benefits the most out of you guys being together is the child.
As a child.
Yeah.
I do think we wanted that because we had discussed marriage was something we had talked about. We did want
Mm-hmm.
to get married, but I always used to say until we resolve this distance thing, there's
Yeah.
no reason for us to bring marriage into the picture because you're bringing it in and you haven't resolved the underlying issues. We're still not in the same place. So
Yeah.
it was a tricky one. Maybe I should have moved sometimes, but I feel like I made the best decision for me
Yeah. Yeah.
and for our son as well. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky
Do
one.
you miss Mudiwa?
Sometimes, not as much as I used to, I would say last year. It's a lot less now, but yes, I did. I did.
If he comes knocking on the door today and said, I'm prepared to join you now because I want this to work as a family, would you say yes?
I don't think I would.
What's changed?
Um, I would say so. It's been a while since we broke up.
About a year.
We had this, and I think because we discussed it for a while before we broke up.
Mm.
Why now have you decided? You've waited for how long? This is the intent I needed you to have when
Mm-hmm.
we were together. I would kind of feel like have you gone on the other side and tried other things? Maybe the grass isn't greener. Now you're coming back to me.
Right.
I don't know if I would be comfortable. Yeah, if I would say yes.
Hey, thank you so much for this, Pindile. Yeah, very, very interesting story. And to, just to play back the lessons that came out of this episode, lesson number 1, follow your gut, always listen to your gut. And lesson number 2, don't be scared to start over. I think this is one of the more significant ones in your case because you held on for that period,
Mm-hmm.
being worried about getting back onto the dating scene, as you've said, and getting back onto the dating scene with a child.
Yeah.
But guess what? You'll be surprised. There's some men out there who are happy to take on somebody who's got a child because, as far as they're concerned, it's the best version they can give of themselves.
I hope so, Tinto.
So so this fear of the unknown, if you can try and muscle up some strength, muscle up as much as you can and tackle it head on. Just be
Mhm.
intentional.
Yeah.
Be intentional about what you want in a relationship, so the guy knows up front what it is, one that you bring to the table, and what you want out of it. And then
definitely.
lesson number 3, don't do long distance at all. I agree, don't do it. And then number 4, date your age mates or people close to your age, because you might be thinking of having similar things and heading in the same direction. And last but not least, don't compromise what you don't like in a relationship or what you expect. You've been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Sati zandaro raini and chake zaini.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Sati zandaro raini and chake zaini.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.